Have you ever felt that suddenly something began to change inside you without a clear explanation? As if your peace had gradually diminished, as if the atmosphere around you was heavier, stranger, and even try to ignore this feeling. Deep down in your soul, something kept saying that something wasn't right. Perhaps you are close to people who smile at you every day, but who silently are affecting your mind, your emotions, and even your spiritual life. And the scariest thing is that this often happens slowly, almost imperceptibly. Have you ever experienced this? There are times when God tries to speak to us not through an audible voice, but through anxieties, discomforts, and signs we feel in our spirit. A strange sensation that appears for no reason. An emotional weariness that doesn't go away. A lack of peace that always arises around certain people. And no matter how much we try to rationalize everything, there is something within us that continues to warn. Pay attention, because not every spiritual battle begins with something visible. Some begin within the soul. Some begin through connections that seem normal, but carry confusion, emotional weight, and spiritual darkness. Perhaps lately you felt more mentally exhausted. Maybe your mind is restless, your heart heavy, and your emotional energy seems to disappear without explanation. And the hardest part is that often no one notices. You keep smiling, keep talking, keep living normally, while inside you feel that something is slowly draining your peace. What you are about to discover may surprise you, because the Bible shows that not all the people who enter our lives come to stay. Some appear only to distance us from peace, weaken our faith, or create emotional confusion. And you know what's most striking? Many people ignore the signs God sends. They ignore them because they don't want to believe. They ignore them because they're afraid to see the truth. They ignore them because they think they're exaggerating. But there's a huge difference between judging someone and spiritually discerning what's affecting their soul. God doesn't want you to live in constant anxiety, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. God is not a God of chaos. When something starts to continually steal your peace, perhaps it's not just emotional, perhaps there's a spiritual warning happening before your eyes. Stay with me until the end, because what we're going to talk about here might open your eyes to things you've been feeling for a long time, but never been able to explain. There are people who come into our lives bringing lightness, hope, and a closer connection to God. But there are also those who carry heavy atmospheres, negative words, emotional manipulation, and energy that seems to slowly extinguish our inner strength. And the problem is that often these people are very close. Sometimes they're part of our routine. Sometimes they're part of our inner circle. And that's precisely why spiritual discernment becomes so important. Perhaps God allowed you to find this video today because there is something you needed to realize. Perhaps that constant restlessness is no coincidence. Perhaps that feeling of heaviness that appears around certain people is a silent warning from heaven. Because before many emotional falls, God sends signs. Before much suffering, God tries to warn. But the question is, are you listening? Or are you continuing to ignore what your soul has been trying to tell you for so long? And there's an important detail that almost no one notices. Some spiritual signs seem small at first, but when ignored for too long, they begin to profoundly affect the mind, emotions, and even connection with God. And it is precisely about these signs that we're going to talk about now. And while you listen to this message, I want to extend a sincere invitation to you. If at any point in these words you felt that God was speaking directly to you, write in the comments, "God, open my eyes." It may seem simple, but often when we share what we are feeling, we realize that we are not alone in this emotional and spiritual battle. Perhaps there are other people reading the comments now, carrying the same weight in silence, trying to understand why they have lost their peace, why they feel so tired inside, or why certain connections have begun to bring more confusion than tranquility. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below about what has touched you the most so far. Have you ever felt that God was trying to warn you about someone? Have you ever noticed a strange feeling that later made sense? Your experience could help someone who is going through exactly that right now. And one of the strongest things about this community is precisely realizing that God speaks to each person in different ways, but often through the same signs. And if this message is helping you in any way, please like this video. It seems like a small gesture, but it helps this message reach more people who might need to hear exactly this today. People who are emotionally exhausted, people who are confused, People were trying to find spiritual peace again amidst the chaos of their minds and emotions. Sometimes, a simple video can be the confirmation someone was praying for. And if you feel that this type of content strengthens your faith, opens your eyes, and helps you see your emotions in the light of the Bible, subscribe to the channel now. Because there are still many messages that can transform the way you understand what is happening within your soul. Here, we talk about spiritual discernment, signs from God, silent emotional battles, and how God's presence continues to try to reach wounded, weary, and lost people amidst the distractions of the world. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content. Every comment, every like, and every subscription helps this message continue to reach people who may be having difficult nights, struggling silently, and try to understand why something inside them has changed. And perhaps without realizing it, God has used this exact moment to begin opening your eyes to something you've been ignoring for a long time. Because there are signs that seem small at first, but carry profound warning for those who can spiritually discern what is happening around them. And some of these signs begin so silently that most people only notice them too late. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's a truth that many people have begun to hide within themselves: their own emotions. We live in a world where feeling has become a sign of weakness, where many people believe that showing sadness, anxiety, fear, or emotional exhaustion means a lack of faith. But the hidden truth that almost no one realizes is that God never asked you to stop feeling. God created human beings with emotions. He created tears. He created sensitivity. He created compassion. He created the human heart capable of loving, suffering, being disappointed, and also being restored. Jesus himself wept. Jesus felt anguish. Jesus felt pain in the face of loss. This shows that emotions are not a sin. The problem begins when they start to completely control your mindset, your decisions, and your spiritual journey. Perhaps for a long time you've tried to hide what you feel. Perhaps you've learned to smile while your mind was tired. Perhaps you said everything is fine while your soul was screaming in silence. And do you know what's most powerful in all of this? God sees what no one else sees. God perceives the weight you carry when no one is looking. Your silence doesn't prevent God from hearing your pain. And perhaps today, He is trying to remind you of exactly that. There are people who spend years trying to control everything around them because they believe that if they lose control, everything will crumble. And that's exactly where much of the anxiety is born. The excessive thoughts, the constant worry, the racing mind, the fear of tomorrow, the need to foresee everything before it happens. But there's a limit where worry stops protecting and begins to destroy from within. The Bible says, "Do not be anxious about anything." And many people read this as a demand, when in fact it is an invitation to rest. Perhaps God is reminding you that you don't have to carry everything alone. Perhaps you are trying to bear weights that were never placed on your shoulders. And when anxiety dominates the mind, everything begins to lose clarity. Small problems seem gigantic. Simple decisions become difficult. Peace disappears. And in many cases, this worsens even more when there are people around feeling insecurity, negativity, and emotional confusion. Not every spiritual battle comes only from the invisible. Some enter through the door of coexistence. There are connections that silently drain your energy. People who leave you emotionally exhausted after a simple conversation. People who increase your anxiety, weaken your faith, and steal your tranquility little by little. And the most dangerous thing is that this happens slowly, behind the scenes of your routine. When peace disappears for no apparent reason, perhaps God is trying to open your eyes. Because God is not a God of confusion. Heavy atmospheres affect the soul. Some connections nourish your faith, others silently extinguish it. And deep down, perhaps you've already realized this a long time ago. Perhaps there's someone close to you who has changed your way of thinking, your emotional energy, or even your connection with God. Perhaps after certain conversations you feel drained, unmotivated, lacking spiritual strength, lacking mental clarity. And even trying to ignore these signs, something inside you keeps saying that this isn't normal. But there's another emotion that many people hide deeply: sadness. Not that fleeting sadness, but the kind that stays hidden in the soul for months or even years. The sadness that appears in the middle of the night. The emotional emptiness that no one understands. And the Bible shows that even great men of God went through this. David wept before God in the Psalms. Elijah wanted to give up in a moment of emotional exhaustion. This means that feeling sadness doesn't make you spiritually weak. It makes you human. God doesn't reject those who are emotionally weary. On the contrary, it is often precisely in this place of pain that he begins to restore the soul. And perhaps there's something holding you back in life without you realizing it. Fear. Fear makes you see the problem as bigger than God. Fear paralyzes decisions, destroys opportunities, weakens dreams, and traps people in invisible emotional prisons. How many times did God say in the Bible, "Do not fear"? Because he knew that fear would be one of the strongest weapons against the human mind. Fear makes you imagine tragedies before they happen. It makes you distrust everything. It makes you miss opportunities because of insecurity. And when someone lives surrounded by negative environments and people who fuel emotional confusion, this fear grows even more. And along with fear often comes another silent emotion: accumulated anger, hidden resentments, old emotional wounds, people who hurt you and moved on while you continued carrying the weight of it inside your chest. But repressed emotions don't disappear on their own. They transform into spiritual weariness, anxiety, discouragement, and even emotional distance from God. There are pains that only begin to heal when you surrender them to God. And that doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means freeing your own heart from the weight that was destroying you from within. Perhaps that's why you felt so alone lately. Even surrounded by people. Even having normal conversations. Even living your usual routine. Because there are solitudes that happen within the soul. And even great men of the Bible felt this at some point in their journey. But heaven hasn't fallen silent because God has abandoned you. Sometimes silence is part of the process of inner transformation. Sometimes God allows certain discomforts to awaken revelations that you would never perceive living on autopilot. Perhaps this emotional weight is trying to show you that something needs to change. Perhaps God is using your own emotions to alert you to untreated wounds, wrong environments, draining connections, or a spiritual distance that began silently. Because God doesn't just want to change your life on the outside. He wants to restore your soul. And this emotional healing happens through real processes. Sincere prayer, emotional rest, silence with God, forgiveness, wisdom, and spiritual discernment. Perhaps today God simply wants to remind you that you are not alone in this battle. And perhaps what you've been calling just a difficult phase is actually a call to open your eyes and see what has happened within you and around you. And perhaps, after everything we've discussed today, the greatest truth God wanted to place in your heart is this: you don't need to continue ignoring what your soul has been trying to tell you for so long. God sees your emotions, knows your silent struggles, and understands even those pains you've never been able to explain to anyone. And sometimes the first step to healing isn't pretending everything is okay. It's finally recognizing what needs to be transformed within you. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments, "God, open my eyes." I really want to know if this video touched your heart. And when you comment, you also help other people who are going through the same emotional and spiritual battle to realize that they are not alone on this journey. And if this content helped you in any way, please leave a like. This greatly strengthens this message and shows that it's worthwhile to continue bringing profound reflections like this, talking about emotions, faith, spiritual discernment, and how God continues to try to reach people amidst the weariness, anxiety, and confusion of life. If you wish to continue receiving messages like this, you can subscribe to the channel. Because here, our journey is precisely about learning to see life, emotions, and spiritual signs with more clarity, wisdom, and God's guidance. And there's a video over here that really complements this topic. Click on it and continue reading. Perhaps this next message will be exactly the confirmation you needed to hear today, in a deeper way. Write in the comments, "This makes sense to me,"